my humble obeisances to all of you. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for this Sangha and inviting me. I begin by offering our pranams to Mataji. I see her picture there and it's very heartbreaking that she's not here with us today. We feel her presence, like she always sits here. She's very attentive and very observant. I saw her, she's observing everything, everybody, and we miss her very much. So we are very much with Purohit family, Vyas family, today to commemorate her and remember her personality, her bhakti. I was just thinking these wonderful kirtaniyas in their home. A lot of times you get, because of her blessings, and her devotion, her bhakti, and of course, the parents' bhakti, the parents' devotion, the parents' practices, they bring in the next generations good souls. So I can see that Prabhuji's, Mataji's blessings and their devotional practices have given them these two souls for wonderful kirtan that they do. Very devotional kirtan today. I really enjoyed so much. They're very heartfelt kirtan. And so it's very distressful, that to lose your loved one, especially your mother, your father, very difficult. And I know Prabhuji's, Mataji's, both families, they were very well attached to their mom, and they're really going through a very hard time. So our humble condolences to all of them. It's not easy to get back to normal routine very quickly, but somehow or the other we pray that by Krishna's grace, Krishna is healing you gently, giving her continued blessings. You feel her blessings continued, and her presence will be felt whenever we do kirtans. She'll be here with us in some way. I feel that way. So I was thinking, the distress is never going away. Different kinds of distress. It is not guaranteed that just because you accept Krishna consciousness, your dukkha will go away. It's not like that. But it's just the way we handle the distress is different. Because we take shelter of Bhagavad Gita, because we take guidance from the Gita. And I'm sure all of us have experienced that in some or the other way. How different difficult times, different unpleasant, unfavorable times come upon us. We learn how to be present in those times and pass those times with much more peaceful mind, much more strength and spiritual courage. We have all gone through that. We have experienced some of the other way, the presence of the Gita, her guidance, and the guidance of Srila Prabhupada in our lives. So I was thinking today, how Bhagavad Gita makes us wise during the time of our distress. And we are different in that way. We are different from other people in that way because we have this tool. We have this spiritual tool of the Gita that makes us different from other people. How they handle their distress, how they handle their unfavorable situations is very different from how we learn from Srila Prabhupada's teachings, from Bhagavad Gita, how we handle it. And that's why today I wanted to say something about the word wise, because we all feel, how many of us feel wiser as compared to the time when we started learning Bhagavad Gita? If you learn from your childhood, that's great, but some of us have joined later on, so we feel wiser, right? If you don't feel wise, then please raise your hand. Nobody will raise it. Even if they don't have experience. But basically we do feel wiser. And that's why I wanted to take this word wise today, W-I-S-E. And this is an acronym. And then we will look at the W, the I, and S, and E. And my idea is to ask you, all of you, your experiences. And then I have some Bhagavad Gita verses listed under each word or each letter, I would say. And then, if you talk enough, then I don't have to talk. But if you don't say anything much, then I have my verses here listed. But I'm sure you will open up with your experiences and you'll have much more to say. So my first letter, W, is that when we begin our journey with the Gita, when we learn how to deal with life and understand Srila Prabhupada's purports, the first thing that happens is that the feeling of wonder, right? That W stands for wonder. And the feeling of wonder to know about Krishna's creation. Because even though we are raised as Hindus, sometimes we do not have details about what exactly is Bhagwan, how this world runs, what does Bhagwan do to create this universe, and how beautifully detailed the universe is, right? So first thing that, at least personally, I have experienced, that I felt wonder. Like, wow, is that how it is? Because I didn't know a lot of details. And Krishna, he himself says in the 10th chapter, if you see the word at the end of the chapter, Krishna says that Yadyat Vibhutivam Sattvam Srimad Urjitam Evava Tattad Eva Gachatvam Mama Tejoncha Sambhavam. So know that all opulent, beautiful and glorious creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. And he says that there is no end to these creations, because they are unlimited, but I'll speak only a few to you. So this is the understanding we get about Krishna's creation, and anything that we observe in this world that you feel attracted to, that you feel gorgeous or glorious, then immediately you understand how Krishna is. So now I'm going to ask you as to what kind of wonders have you found when you understood the Gita's teaching about how Krishna creates this universe, how this world works. Have you had any wonders as to, wow, that kind of moment when you read the Gita? Like, I just gave you one example from this chapter. So, one wonder that I came across when I started reading the Gita was in the 8th chapter, 17th, 18th verses, those kind of verses. So Krishna says, 8th chapter itself is attaining the supreme, that heading, and the 7th chapter is also knowledge of the absolute. So these two chapters, 7 and 8, are filled with wonderful creations of Krishna. And Krishna says, I am the Himalayas, I am the waters of Ganga, and so many other wonderful examples Krishna has given that makes you feel very amazed, like how did Krishna does that. And especially in the 8th chapter, 17th verse, Krishna explains the entire cycle of yugas. Krishna says that Sahasra Yuga Paryantam Aharyad Brahmano Viduhu Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam Teho Ratra Vidojanaha. By human calculation, 1,000 ages taken together form the duration of Brahma's one day. And such also is the duration of his night. And in the next verse, he says that at the beginning of Brahma's day, all living entities become manifest, and thereafter, when the night falls, they merge into the unmanifest again. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains this cycle of the kalpas. This one day of Brahma consists of 1,000 cycles of 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali. And our Vedic literature has given the duration of each of these yugas. 1,728,000 years for Satya Yuga, 1,296,000 for Treta Yuga, and like that 864,000 years for Dwapar Yuga and 4,32,000 years for our Kali Yuga. Like that, 1,000 cycles becomes one day of Brahma, and same is the night of Brahma, and then Brahma lives like this for 100 years, and that is the duration of this universe. And we all know, like that, from the pores of Mahavishnu, these universes are being what do you call? They are being thrown out, emanating like bubbles. So just this one simple information can make us like feel overwhelmed, because we cannot imagine. It's hard to imagine even if you sit down and try to imagine. So this is my example. Now I would like to again ask you if you have any such wonderful experiences on the Gita.
Just want to add a comment. There's an easy math to remember this.
Okay.
It's like Kali Yuga is 432
Uh-huh.
000, 432,000. Dwapar is twice of that.
Twice of that, yes.
Treta is thrice of that.
Mm-hmm.
And Satyuga is 4 times of that. If we add all together, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10 times. So 10 times of 432,000, 432 million, right?
Yeah.
That becomes one day of one day of Brahma, and multiplied by twice, and then 100, right?
Yes,
So it's easy to remember that. Actually.
Easy to remember, yeah, absolutely. And you know what Srila Prabhupada explains, that these 100 years by earth calculation total to 311 trillion 40 billion years together. That is the lifetime of our universe. 311 trillion 40 billion years.
And that is just one breath.
That is just
of
one breath.
Mahavishnu.
So isn't that wonderful? Right? Where do you find this kind of information other than the Gita as well? Yeah. So any other thoughts on that wonderful aspect? So you see, at the end of the Gita, Sanjaya says, as I remember the wonderful form of Krishna, I am struck with wonder more and more, and I rejoice again and again. Tacha samsmrutya rupam atyam adhitam harehe vismayo me mahan rajan rishyami cha puna puna. So even Sanjaya is a great example of that feeling of wonder. He has heard Krishna, he has seen Krishna's universal form by the grace of Vyasadeva. And that's why he says that I repeatedly recall this wondrous and holy dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, and I take pleasure being thrilled at every moment. So that should be our situation. We should be thrilled when we read the Gita, when we think about it, when we understand this wonderful, unimaginable creation. To some extent, it should be thrilled at every moment. That's the W of the wise. So the next one is I, and I call it as informed. You know, we become informed of many things. Personally, they could be different for you than me. So is there anything that you feel that you, after reading the Gita, after studying the Gita, you feel informed?
Informed. Do this.
Yes.
Information.
Yes.
That can give you everything.
Yes.
It gives us a lot of strength. In case of when you are going through especially some suffering and all.
Yes.
So I can feel, that from Bhagavad Gita teaching, you get some strength.
That's good. That's good.
Actually, Mataji, I wanted to add that for wondering, you said wonder, right?
Sure.
A couple of days back, I was kind of wondering that this is how, what I'm amazed is that how Krishna gives you the chance, gives you the time to worship him. It's not like we think that, okay, now we are getting the chance, we came to tonight here, or we get to go to the lectures, or we hear something about Krishna. I think, to me, I feel the more is that Krishna is giving you the chance. He will set everything for you if he wants you to get into that. Otherwise, Maya is there basically. So, like I was wondering, like I go to office for 1 hour drive,
Right.
2 days, and then I was wondering that it's Krishna's mercy that I get my office. I got my office very far, so that I can drive, and during drive I can listen also. If I would not have got that chance, I would not listen to a lot of good lectures and all, would not get all the knowledge which I'm trying to still understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a great example, great example, because you can also see the wonder that Krishna is doing with your life. That's a great
If my
example.
job was in Plainsboro, for example, I would,
You would-
wake up at 8 and directly go to office. I will get involved in all the office work.
Yeah,
Come back at 5 o'clock, and so then not really listening or thinking about Krishna.
absolutely. Yeah,
But because of my drive is there, I'm able to listen, hear. So that's the really.
that's wonderful. That's the wonder is happening in your life. Yes.
Mataji, when you say informed after, listening all the Bhagavad Gita discourses and trying to understand, reading ourselves, so now I better understand the life and death cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And one more thing, two more things, I think I'm able to understand better is the karma philosophy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That mean why this is happening with
Mhm.
us and where it is coming from. So that answers a lot of things. What we deserve, we are getting. So now there is no more complaints,
Yes.
no grievances, no
Yes.
anger, nothing. So like we are like we punishment or whatever you call it in whatever language. So we deserve this. So that's why it's happening with us. So that has, in one sense, it has put our mind at peace. No more frustration. Before we used to get frustrated, anger, and we had some expectations. They are not fulfilled, and But now we look at a different perspective.
Absolutely.
That is one thing. And the third is I mean these two, karma and life and death, we have heard in many ways, because growing up in India, somewhere they come and fall in our ears. But after joining ISKCON and all the satsang, all this, I'm understanding better. One more thing which I didn't know before, and recently I came to know after ISKCON, is like how Krishna will give us an opportunity to continue our bhakti journey, even though we are not able to fulfill in this lifetime. That is very important, because we don't want to start anything which we don't have the capacity to complete, to take it to the conclusion, right? We don't start anything to end abruptly. So when we do this bhakti journey, so we want to know, I'm doing this much, or I'm spending this much, I'm involving myself, engaging myself this much, but then will this be enough? Will this be enough? Will I be able to reach Krishna, or at least
Right. So you have hopes now that you will be able to
we
continue.
Have hopes now,
Yeah.
like,
That's
I can't tell the exact words, but then in our next life we will be given an opportunity to
Yes.
continue this.
Yes. That's great, because there's so much hope, and because of the knowledge. Inform means basically you have knowledge.
Yeah.
And one thing that really strikes me is the information about who we are. You kind of touch base on that. So who we are not just these bodies, we have a journey to go on. And in the second chapter is filled with that, from verses 11 to 30. They speak about this particular aspect, about our journey, about the nature of our soul. And in the 14th chapter, there is information about the modes of nature, how this entire world is working under the influence of the modes of nature. There's one information that I found very interesting when I started studying the Gita, is the 4th chapter, 7th and 8th verses. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata. And the reason for that is that this verse, yada yada hi dharmasya glanirбhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham ani paritranaaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkrutam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So Krishna says that whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious principles and predominant rise in irreligion, I descend myself and I re-establish the principles of religion. Now, why I like this information, or how I related to this information, is that this makes our approach extremely broad to understand other religions. Because we can see that whatever genuine religion is practiced in this world, that is an arrangement of Krishna, because at that time, place and circumstance, there was some irreligion, and Krishna appeared in his form, which is different from what we understand, or he sent his representatives. Krishna says that, and Prabhupada mentions that in the purport of these two verses, that either he himself or his special associates, they come and reestablish the principles, and that helps us explain a lot of things, discuss things, with the other, not necessarily discuss, but at least in our hearts we understand. So if you see anything screwed up in this world under the name of religion, then we can know that it's not unexplained, but it's the mess that we as humans create. But there's originally the instruction given even in that religion on a very systematic basis by Krishna's divine form in some other way. So these two verses really personally help me broaden my approach towards other religions. And every time there's a discussion, I can say that our Bhagavad Gita is the best explanation of why this religion, that religion, that religion. Because genuinely, as time, place, circumstance, Krishna has been giving instructions from time to time, from time immemorial. And this is how we understand. So, any other thoughts on that? About information, just how you feel informed, how you feel knowledgeable after understanding the Gita.
I think, Mataji, throughout the Gita, I think the main point what struck to me is that when Shri Krishna emphasizes multiple times that I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead and there is nothing beyond me. And so many times he mentions that.
Wonderful. That was a knowledge to me as well when I started the study, especially because we as Hindus, we are not necessarily given a bigger picture unless your family has some great pandits, but we get confused, as you said, like, okay, this devata, that devata, and who and why do I worship this and that? I used to get very confused when I was growing up. But this is a great knowledge we get from the Gita, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and everything and everyone is either his servants or they are serving him in some other form. So we can read about this in the 7th chapter, right? Krishna says about the arrangement of the demigods, and that's a great knowledge, because that, as you probably mentioned, that this reduces our confusion, right? Whom do I worship? Why do I not worship this or that? And it's so clear cut and very, very useful information we get.
And he also mentions that the effulgent Brahman emanates from me. So that also rests the case where people think that, is God emanating from that? But he shares very clearly, right, that it emanates from me, actually, it rests upon me.
Yes. And that way we can reconcile everything in terms of Mahaprabhu's words, Achintya Bhedabhed, right? And that gives us so much peace, because that we know the bigger picture.
Yeah.
It's even though people probably know in pockets, but we can reconcile everything together.
That's one explanation Radhanath Swami Maharaj said, Prabhupada, just now I am yours. When he explained.
That's true. That's true. And today's, by the way, Shankaracharya's appearance day. So we pray that, by Mahaprabhu's and Shankaracharya's influence, our Sanatana Dharma will be flourishing. The impersonal and personal aspects will be combined to inform, to make people enlightened. And one other information we cannot skip in the Gita is the 13th chapter, verses 8 to 12. Because Krishna says, he gives a list of 20 items. He says, this is knowledge and everything else is not knowledge. And so because we are talking directly about knowledge, and 13th chapter, 8 to 12. So he gives Amanitvam, Adhambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantir, Arzavam, this will go on. And then he says, Etad Jnanam iti proktam, Adnyanam yadato anyatha. I'm giving you the list of knowledge or information, not information, but knowledge. And if you understand, that's knowledge. If you have anything else, that's not ignorance. So that's a great information. I don't know, I get very excited when I these kind of verses. So any other thoughts?
Yeah, one other which I liked was
okay, 1 second. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay. Which was the Varnashram Dharma, the Varnashram system. He established that. Because earlier we think that Brahma, Kshatriya, all one, right? We don't know, we thought whether who has made them, right? But Krishna clearly states what this system is and how it functions, right? So it makes so much sense, right? Like why those 4 Varnashram, right? 4 Varna and 4 Ashram.
Great.
So,
yes.
Yeah. Was your question about how the Bhagavad Gita keeps us informed? Or?
Yes.
Okay. So I think kind of like shifting topics a little bit. It's kind of going off what Vasanta Mataji was saying about the life-death cycle. I think one of the things that I've noticed in the Bhagavad Gita, and also when Samishra Prabhu does lectures on the Bhagavad Gita, is the emphasis on the permanence of material life. And I think like one of the things that I got is like we can get so caught up in our day-to-day, our jobs, or this, how do we look to people, like we have to like live life a particular way in order to survive and all that stuff, or like we have to have this level of fame or fortune in order for people to love us, or whatever superficial things that we put so much emphasis on as humanity. But like when we are like on our deathbeds, like we have to leave all that behind, and at the end of the day, it's like it just reduced to our relationship with Lord Krishna, and depending on if our mindset is still on like the lack of or the excessive amount of like fame or fortune, reputation that we have, like that will inform where our next lives will go. So,
yeah, absolutely. And that also, you know, like if you take any other religious scriptures, there's not much of a clarity. The kind of clarity that Bhagavad Gita will give us, it's 100% perfect. We know exactly, we can explain exactly how things move in a very systematic way. So, yeah, thank you for that point. Somebody raised their hand? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji. So, from the Bhagavad Gita, the best thing well informed was, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. And usually Bhagavad Gita will be remembered most in India only after somebody's death or anything. And the well-informed thing is we lament of our loved ones. But Bhagavad Gita enforced in the sloka, Nanan Chinyanti Shastrani, that it's the soul is all pervading and no loss is there. So that's the best well-information I got.
That's so nice. So good.
Also, Mataji, like I can't quote the verse because I'm not that.
That's okay.
At that stage.
Tell me the time.
But how a person should conduct himself, how he should, not get moved by emotions. That what is that term he calls?
Sita Padmata?
Yeah, Sita
Oh,
Padmata.
okay.
Yeah, exactly. He defines that.
Mm-hmm.
He defines, Krishna defines that.
That's towards the end of the second chapter, right?
Yeah. So like he is giving us an role model, like to follow, like so. At least we can aim. We may not be there.
Yes.
But we can aim.
Yes, at least what is
sometimes on some good days, at least.
You can try and you can tell
sometimes
others.
we can try.
That's also true. And one other piece of information that's the most critical in the 15th chapter 7th verse, he says, what is that? Mamaivancho Jiva. So we are a part of him. I mean, honestly, as growing up, I was so confused. I didn't know I'm a part of Krishna, and Krishna is in my heart. I mean, I read the Gita, I was excited, like, oh. So I'm sure we have the whole book we can say, all the examples that come up. Every sloka, yeah, absolutely. That information that others don't have, that we have, and that makes us wise. Now let's moving on to the S letter. It's we feel safe and protected because we are students of the Gita, and for that reason, Krishna says in the 9th chapter, 22nd verse, he says, Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryupasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyam. Krishna himself is saying that those who worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So this feeling we will experience. We do experience when we are the students of the Gita, and we feel safe and protected because we know that whatever, and you kind of mentioned, that Prabhuji mentioned, I think it's not there anymore, that you are lacking something, Krishna will arrange in such a way that you will be able to accomplish that. And if you're already having it, Krishna will make sure that he preserves it so that you can build upon that. So that experience we have. And the second thing, Krishna says in the 29th verse of that same chapter, that samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshosthi na priyaha ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya te mai Ye bhajanti tumam bhaktya mai te teshu chapyaham. So he says, I envy no one, I'm not partial to anyone, I'm equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend of me. He is in me and I'm also a friend to him or her. So this is the promise of Krishna, that I will be a friend, I will guide you. If you are missing something, I will provide you. And I'll make sure that if you have it, you will not be losing it. So these promises that Krishna makes us feel safe and protected. Because we are taking up Krishna's devotion and studying the Gita. So that any other thoughts on that feeling of safety and protection?
That verse which says, Name Bhakta Pranasthati.
Name Bhakta Pranasthati, yes.
I don't know.
Dharman Paristhiti.
Yeah.
Sarvadharman Parityaja Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayashyami Ma Shucha. Do not fear.
Yeah.
Krishna says that, do not fear. It's a beautiful feeling. And then as we move on to the next letter E, we become eligible to teach others about Krishna and help others. Right? And thereby earn the extra favor of Krishna. So in the 18th chapter, Krishna says towards the end, 60th chapter, he says, Ya idam paramam guhyam mad bhakteshu abhidhasyati bhaktim mai param krutva mamevaisya asamshayaha. Evashyati, mama evashyati asamshayaha. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. And then he says, Nacha tasmat manusheshu kaschin me priyakruttamaha bhavita nacha me tasmat anyaha priyataro bhuvi. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he. He means refers to the previous verse, that whosoever is explaining the supreme secret to the devotees, that person will be very, very dear to me. And there will be nobody more dear to me than that kind of person who is explaining, who is helping others. So we become eligible when we study the Gita and we do the devotional service, very honestly, taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada, we become eligible because Krishna gives us the capacity to explain. And not only theoretically explain, but actually by our behavior, by our demeanor, and by our compassionate attitude towards others, we actually help others. We feel compassion. I'm sure all of us have experienced that when we start the Gita process, then we feel compassion that, oh, this person is lacking something, let me go and help. It could be anything. It's not necessarily just giving a lecture and teaching you how I can make you wise. It's not like that. It's not like that. But just our general approach towards people becomes compassionate. We are willing to help them. We are willing to forgive them. Earlier, very difficult to forgive somebody. But now we understand it's all Krishna's plan. Everybody's walking on their journey. And let me just be an instrument of Krishna's grace and Krishna's love and affection for this person. We become instruments. We feel instruments. And Krishna makes us instruments. And that is our eligibility that we earn by this process. And in this way, as Krishna mentions, that person is very dear to me. And there's nobody more dear to me than this person who is explaining and helping others learn about me. So this is the way we earn that extra special favor of Krishna. Because he definitely rewards us with more devotion, more practice, more company of devotees. In our journey, it's not just 10 years or 15 years of our life. This many years to come on our journey that Krishna will be favoring us by sending special people on our path, by giving us company of devotees and everything. So this was this is any other thoughts on that last one, eligibility for helping others that we feel?
It could be eligibility, it could be empathy, and it could be our experience experience, how we experience after we start understanding the essence of Gita. All our everything, how we respond, how we get stimulated with all everything happening around us totally changes. Our experience is at a different level.
Absolutely. That E could be our experience also. So this is the way we become. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think after going through Bhagavad Gita, you get the knowledge. That knowledge makes you humble, and then with that humbleness, you are made eligible, because that brings you, okay, I can help you.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, if you're not humble, you will be like, why should I help? Like something.
Absolutely. Or sometimes people help for a reason, like I'll help and I'll get some benefit. So, but you said it correctly, that making us humble, and that humbleness makes us so soft in our hearts that we want to help and not take the credit for that, right? Very nice. So it's amazing to hear from all of you, all your experiences.
The false ego also will make us eligible.
Your false ego does not make you eligible. Yeah. But when you have understood your real ego, then you know that you are an instrument in Krishna's hands. Absolutely, 100%. And that's great. I mean, I love. We could go on discussing, and there is no end to
in terms of like what informed, right? There's so many other things Krishna says, right? Like gross body and subtle body, right? What does gross body contain? What does subtle body contain, right? How is these two are different? How you have these, but you're not these, right? That's one they come to know. Then we talked about the lifespan. There's something I was thinking. So it's from mine. But yeah, these are things, right? Like for the water, fire, air, ether, right? The whole concept, right? Like now if you continue and go to Bhagavad, how you see, right? From first you had sound, or from ether, right? Then air comes. All those things, right? If you go much deeper into the whole Sankhya philosophy, that is so wonderful, right? Like first the sound was there, right? The sound ether came, right? Then air came, right? The whole thing,
I mean, every one of us can pick whatever touches our heart and feel excited and wonderful and informed, and like we could have our very personal feelings about that.
And like the I think everybody agrees the most important thing in Bhagavad Gita is, like Krishna tells Arjuna is like all of us, all the other human beings. Like follow your dharma and do your duty, whatever you are supposed to do, and don't worry or fear the consequences. That is all upon him, and we are supposed to do our dharma.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think that is the most important thing.
True. Again, that seems like it's appealing to you. There could be something else appealing to another person. It's that
I think
collective as well as individual.
That philosophy,
right?
And that teachings from Krishna, that concept that has got the attention of the whole world today. All these management schools, the most popular universities in the world. That one thing applies to every person. At every stage of their life.
Right. So that universality of the Gita is also something attractive to our hearts. That's wonderful. So in this way, I am very hopeful. I'm very sure that all of us collectively get wise by coming to these kind of studies, and also individually when we are studying Gita on our own. Also there will be realizations, there will be moments of thrill and happiness and thankfulness to the Lord. Thank you, Lord, that in this lifetime I got my Gita, I got my knowledge, thank you. Otherwise I would have been lost. So that kind of feeling also can we have. So this is a short description for that.
Also like promise, Krishna gives a promise.
Promises.
Like whatever devotion you do, it will come back to you. Material life, what you earn, it doesn't come back. So that promise, I like it. So we start from that stage of the development.
Yes. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because these promises are so sweet and they make us very hopeful, and they give us so much of inspiration to go on. Because every time you remember, oh, Krishna promised this.
E for encourage.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
I guess this is kind kind of shifting topic, but I don't know. But one of the things that does fascinate me and that does touch my heart is that, like, you mentioned all the different yugas, right? So, like, my dad was telling me that, like, there are some people who are in the material world that actually transition through the yugas. Like, it's not like everyone in a particular yuga just goes back to Godhead. It's like certain people, like, they transition from, like, the first yuga to the second yuga and whatever due to their, like, karma and, you know, the piety and everything. And then I asked my dad, like, wait, I'm like, does that mean that we have ancestors in, like, previous yugas? And my dad was like, yeah. And I was like, oh my god, that's so cool. Like, it makes me think about, like, who they were and, like, how did they live their lives?
Yeah.
And, like, they lived in a time when God was actually on Buloka. So it's, like, very fascinating. Who were these people? What were they like?
Yeah, there's no end to our fascination, right?
Yeah.
And it's always connecting to our life. Like, always you feel like, oh, this is about me. That's how you feel happy and that's how you feel thrilled. If it is not related to your life, you wouldn't be, okay, this is the knowledge, okay, this is the theory, okay. But no, this immediately applies to your life, and that's how it becomes thrilling. So we continue together to become wiser and wiser and become enlightened by the grace of Srila Prabhupada. So thank you all very much. Srila Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Dhantarachana Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Gaur Premanand. Hari Bol.